you can ruin this day.
Not today. Please, I was just... Someone stop her.
Stop! What are you doing? The music halted. Every head turned. A single tear slid down the waitress's cheek as the bride's hand fell, trembling, realizing what she'd done. The crowd gasped. Phones flashed. And then the groom's voice, cracking through the chaos, cut the silence like glass. "Mom." The word echoed through the hall, freezing every smile, every whisper, every illusion of perfection. The woman Emily thought she'd humiliated was the one she was about to call family. This is the story of the bride who struck her own mother-in-law and lost everything. Welcome, story lovers from where are you watching? Hit the like button and drop your city name in the comments so we can see how far our story travels. The morning sun shimmered over the rolling hills of Georgia, casting a golden glow across the manicured lawns of the Rosewood estate. The grand white mansion stood proudly against the blue sky, draped in silk ribbons and flowers, every detail whispering luxury, perfection, and pride. Inside, Emily Whitford, the bride-to-be, was the center of it all. Her laughter echoed through the halls as stylists circled her like bees to a queen. Born into old money, Emily had always believed that her wedding would be a statement, proof of her family's status, her taste, her success. She wasn't cruel, not openly. But there was a sharpness to her kindness, the kind that cut without bleeding. She spoke about class, tradition, and standards, words that often carried meanings deeper than she realized. Her friends adored her confidence. Her parents loved her ambition. And her fiancé, Daniel Carter, adored her charm, or perhaps the idea of her, the woman who could fit neatly into a picture-perfect future. The wedding day was her masterpiece. Guests in pastel suits mingled beneath chandeliers, sipping champagne and whispering admiration. The air was warm, heavy with music, perfume, and expectation. Staff in crisp uniforms moved like shadows, unnoticed but essential, setting plates, pouring drinks, catching every crumb before it fell. Among them was Alicia, a quiet black woman who'd been hired through a local catering company. Her hands moved with practiced grace, balancing trays while her eyes avoided the judging stares that sometimes followed her. To most guests, she was invisible. To Emily, she was just another worker, another reminder of the hierarchy she never questioned. But as fate would have it, that same hierarchy, that quiet, unseen line separating privilege from pain, was about to shatter in front of everyone. Because before the night was over, Emily's perfect world would collapse in a single, unthinkable moment. A moment no one at that wedding would ever forget. The reception began like something out of a magazine, the kind of celebration that lived forever in photo albums and social media posts. Laughter floated through the air, glasses clinked, and every detail, from the crystal centerpieces to the 5-tiered cake, reflected the perfection Emily demanded. Her white gown shimmered under the chandeliers, every camera capturing her practiced smile, the one she'd been perfecting since childhood. But beneath that glow, tension brewed, quiet, invisible, and waiting. Alicia moved through the crowd with her tray, offering champagne with polite nods. She'd worked dozens of weddings before, but something about this one felt heavier. The stares lingered longer. The whispers were sharper. She caught fragments of conversations, guests joking about her skin, someone murmuring that she looked too comfortable for a waitress. Alicia swallowed the words like bitter medicine, keeping her head down. She couldn't afford to lose this job. Meanwhile, Emily floated through her guests, basking in compliments and attention. When a drop of red wine splashed near her dress, she froze. It hadn't touched the gown, but her eyes darted to the source. Alicia, standing a few steps away, holding an empty glass. A murmur rippled through the room. Emily's voice sliced through the music. "Watch where you're going," she said, loud enough for the guests nearby to hear. Her smile tightened, but her tone carried authority, the kind that demanded obedience. Alicia immediately apologized and offered to clean it up. But Emily wasn't finished. "You people are always so careless," she said under her breath, but not low enough to be missed. A few guests shifted uncomfortably. Others looked away. Alicia's chest tightened, shame burning behind her eyes. She turned to walk away, to disappear before the humiliation grew worse. But Emily followed, her heels clicking against the marble floor like accusations. "I'm talking to you," she snapped. The music stopped. The chatter died. All eyes turned toward them, and then, in one horrifying instant, Emily's hand lashed out, a sharp crack cutting through the silence as her palm met Alicia's face. The tray clattered to the ground, glasses shattering like fragile dignity. Gasps filled the room. Phones rose. Someone screamed. Alicia stumbled back, hand pressed to her cheek, tears welling but not falling. For a second, no one moved. The image hung there, the perfect bride, white dress gleaming, standing over a black woman she'd just struck. Then Daniel appeared, pale, frantic, pushing through the crowd. His eyes darted from Alicia to Emily, confusion giving way to horror. He dropped to his knees beside Alicia, his voice trembling as he whispered her name, and then the words that turned the room to ice. "Mom." The guests froze. Emily's mouth fell open. The room swayed around her as the truth unfolded in a wave of gasps and disbelief. The woman she had just humiliated in front of everyone wasn't just a waitress. She was Daniel's mother. And now, nothing, not her beauty, not her privilege, not her name, could save her from what was coming next. The ballroom erupted into chaos. Cameras flashed, voices rose, and the air turned electric with shock. Emily stood frozen, her hand trembling, her palm still stinging from the slap that had just shattered her life. Around her, the whispers became daggers, sharp, merciless, unforgettable. Daniel was on the floor, holding Alicia's shaking hand, his face twisted with pain and disbelief. "How could you?" he breathed, but Emily barely heard him. Her world blurred. The chandeliers, the guests, the music, all melting into a dizzy haze of horror. Alicia tried to stand, her dignity fragile but unbroken. Her eyes glistened with tears she refused to let fall. For years, she had learned to creep through rooms like this, rooms where people smiled at her service but never saw her humanity. Yet now, in the heart of her son's wedding, she had been struck by the woman meant to call her family. Emily reached out as if to speak, to explain, to undo the impossible, but there were no words left that could cleanse her hands. Her father-in-law's stare was cold. Guests pulled out their phones. Someone whispered, "She hit her husband's mother." The words echoed like a sentence. Daniel rose, his voice cracking. "This marriage is over." A hush fell. The DJ cut the music entirely. Emily's knees buckled as reality sank in. The laughter, the pride, the privilege, gone in an instant. And in its place, silence thick enough to drown in. "Dear audience," the narrator's voice would say softly, "where are you watching from? Drop your city name in the comments." The headlines came the next morning. Bride slaps black waitress at wedding, learns it was her mother-in-law. The story spread like wildfire across social media, each retelling sharper than the last. Strangers debated it, condemned it, dissected every second of that video, the slap, the gasp, the word "mom." Emily vanished from public view. Her once flawless image was now a symbol of privilege and ignorance. Friends stopped calling. Sponsors withdrew. Even her family distanced themselves, whispering that she'd embarrassed their name. Alone in her empty apartment, she scrolled through the comments, each one a mirror of the pain she'd caused. Meanwhile, Alicia healed quietly, not from the bruise, that faded quickly, but from the weight of years spent being unseen. She didn't seek revenge. She didn't speak publicly. She didn't need to. Her silence became louder than Emily's excuses ever could be. Daniel stood by his mother, their bond strengthened by truth. He had spent his life trying to balance two worlds, his mother's humility and his fiancé's privilege, never realizing how far apart those worlds truly were. Months later, Emily drove past Rosewood Estate. The flowers were gone, the laughter replaced by whispers of regret. She saw herself reflected in the car window. Not the perfect bride anymore, but a woman forced to confront what she'd never questioned, because racism isn't always shouted. Sometimes it's whispered through entitlement, masked by elegance, revealed only when it's too late. How many more lessons like this must the world endure before it finally listens? Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more powerful true stories that open hearts and spark change.